We call the meeting to order. This is a called and convened, regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting held this evening, April 11th, 2023. Having called the meeting to order, I would like Councilman Corium Booker to lead us in an invocation and pledge allegiance to the flag. If you will, join us in standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you, God, for allowing us to come together this evening as a council, Father. Lord, we ask you just to continue to bless this city, continue to be with us as we make decisions tonight. Let it be fair and equitable to everyone that's involved. And Lord, as your word says in Matthew chapter 6, it says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, Father." So Lord, we commend this council tonight. We commend our mayor. We commend the city. We commend our residents. And most of all, we commend our hearts to you, Father, tonight, so that everything that we do will be blessed in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Mr. Schenkel, do we have anybody to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
With that, council, let's move to the minutes of the council meeting from March the 28th, 2023. They're in your packet. I'll entertain a motion to receive. And a second.
Second.
Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none, Mr. Schenkel.
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, we have some special recognitions this evening, and would ask you, if you will, to indulge us in this activity this evening, as we would like to recognize some special folks. We recognize employees from time to time, and we recognize others for special occasions from time to time. And it is always our honor to be able to recognize folks and or businesses in our community that have served this community well and for a number of years. And we have been doing that in a bit of a haphazard way, and we realized that over time that we have skipped some people from time to time, or maybe overlooked important business anniversaries, and we want to come up with a way to begin to formalize that. And so tonight will be the first night of what we are kicking off as a way to recognize businesses within our community that have reached milestones in terms of anniversaries in our community. It dawned on me how many we actually had with an ad in the Greer Citizen not too long ago. That was a full-page ad of people that were recognized for reaching milestones, and it's just impossible for us to keep up on a daily basis. So we have created a new format where you can go onto our web page and go onto the mayor's page, and there you can you'll find proclamations, and you will also find a new form that is for businesses, and that will give your business an opportunity to go in and to indicate to us the anniversary that you are going to be recognized for. And I believe we're going to start at 25 years, I believe, and we'll work our way up from there. And as you get higher, we've got a little bit different recognition that we'd like to give to you. And so tonight, we're going to start off with a couple of businesses that we'd like to recognize for years of service. And I believe our first one is Owens Insurance. So if you're here with Owens Insurance, if you will, come to the front, please. Fellas, well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and we appreciate it. As many of us know, Owens Insurance was originally started by Don Owens, and Don has been a mentor to me for many years. He and my wife are related. Don actually paid for me to attend Leadership Greer, and that was leadership class number 1. I'm not even going to tell you what year they're working on right now, but I can always say we're number 1. Nobody's going to ever change that. And several years ago, the Owens family had an opportunity to sell that business, and it couldn't have fallen into better hands than these folks right here, who not only have perpetuated the name, but the level of service and attention to detail and all the things that make an insurance company successful. And we want to recognize them for their commitment to this community. An ever-growing community that wants to celebrate those folks that have made a difference through the years, and I can't think of anybody else that I would embrace in terms of that than the Owens Insurance folks. And so tonight I'd like to present to you a plaque that reads Owens Insurance in celebration of 71 years of business in the city of Greer. Mayor Rick Danner and the Greer City Council congratulates Owens Insurance with best wishes and enthusiasm for a continued community partnership for many years to come. Gentlemen, thank you for your service to our community. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Next one we're going to recognize is the Sullivan Brothers Mortuary and Cremation Center in Warren. Shows what I think about when I think about Maurice is joining us this evening. I don't know what made me think of you, Dad. I don't know. It did. Class number 1. We were in class number 1 together. That is true. We were. That was where I met him. So that is how long ago that we met, was in class number 1. And that gives you an idea of the commitment that this family has to the community as well, too. And it has transferred through his family, and he has made a commitment to this community in growing and changing the mortuary to meet the times and the needs of our community, and has always been a supporter of anything I've ever asked him to do here in the city. And so we want to especially thank Sullivan Brothers Mortuary. And this says Sullivan Brothers in celebration of 75 years of service in the city of Greer. Mayor Rick Danner and the Greer City Council congratulate Sullivan Brothers Mortuary Incorporated and Cremation Center with our best wishes and enthusiasm for a continued community partnership for many years to come. Join me in thanking Sullivan Brothers for their commitment to the city of Greer. So I said we got a little bit of a difference in terms of our recognitions, and this one is one of the first that we are going to make the leap with. And I'm going to invite anybody with Smith and James to come up front. Mom and Dad are taking it easy, huh? That shows who's working, doesn't it? Brandon joins us this evening to accept this award on behalf of Smith and James. Smith and James has celebrated, and actually in 2016, their 100th anniversary, and that is indeed a real commitment to this community. As far as I know, been downtown that entire time as well too. And can you imagine what they have seen through the years in terms of a business that started down on Trade Street in 1916. But we want to recognize Brandon and his dad and mom and everybody else that through the years has made Smith & James successful. And this reads, Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing since 1916. Congratulations to Smith & James. 1916 to 2016. From Mayor Rick Danner and the Greer City Council for 100 years of business in the city of Greer. Brandon, thank you for all that you do and your family has done and that business has done for the city. Thank you. We saved the best for last, or at least the most for last. Wood Mortuary. So if you're here this evening at Wood Mortuary, would you come up front, please? Turn around here so that we can tell everybody about Wood Mortuary, because this indeed is a story, my friends. This doesn't happen often, and you know, for this anniversary, we wanted to make sure that this got recognized and to thank those that have been a part of it. I have known the folks at Wood Mortuary since I was fortunate enough to be hired by Dick to do the landscaping and the maintenance up there back after I got out of college, which was, we won't say exactly when, but late 70s. So it has been my honor not only to work with him, but to call him a friend for a long time, and that family. And you know, there are businesses that represent the city of Greer, and I can't think of one that shows Greer than Wood Mortuary. Saw a picture not too long ago of the two houses that were actually combined to create that facility, and gave me a real sense of history about that building there and that business there. It started in 1902, and I believe downtown on Trade Street as well was the first Randall, on Randall. Citizens Building in Lunsey's now. I don't think you were working there then, were you, in 1902? But not quite.
But I wait 3 days with the ship.
Yeah, I imagine you did. So they celebrated their 100th anniversary in 2002, which means obviously they have celebrated their 120th anniversary in this community. And that is an extraordinary event in and of itself, and I believe has been family owned the entire time. 121 years in the same family. And so we present the Wood Mortuary, serving Greer since 1902, with congratulations that says from Mayor Rick Danner and the Greer City Council for 121 years now of business in the city of Greer. And with that, I'd like to present this to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to accept this in memory of my grandfather, our founder, John D. Wood, who died in 1935, and my dad, Richard H. Wood, who died in 1980, and all of those who helped establish our business. And I would like to accept it in honor of all those
I promised these folks I'd do it at the first of the meeting, so if they wanted to slip out, that would be fine. I understand that somebody in one of those 4 groups is going to offer to buy dinner for everybody else, so y'all need to gather somewhere. If y'all want to take advantage of a nice evening, we want to thank y'all for being here. Thank you. Hundred and 21 years in Gisborne. Wow. Same family. That is amazing. Impressive. Yeah. All good folks. All good folks. Got a lot of businesses that we want to continue to celebrate in Greer, and hopefully by now having a forum that people can take advantage of to go in and let us know, it'll be easier for us to track and to be able to do this on a regular basis, so that we can recognize those folks that have been instrumental in not only building Greer, but shaping Greer, and to know some of those stories and some of those people. They are important to our past as well as our future. With that, Mr. Merriman, the administrator's report, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. A couple things tonight. First of all, I want to recognize the City of Greer Fire Department. We're honored to announce that the Greer Fire Department has earned the 2022 Fire Safe South Carolina Community designation. The Greer Fire Department was one of 132 departments statewide recognized for active participation in developing community risk reduction. So just if you see any of our folks in the fire service here in Greer, just please make it a point to congratulate them and recognize them for this continued hard work. By way of reminder, the City of Greer, in partnership with Greenville County Litter Ends Here, Keep One Spartanburg Beautiful, and Greer CPW has scheduled community cleanup events throughout Greer on Saturday, April 22nd. The community cleanup locations are Bible Brook Drive, Snow Road and Abner Creek, Chick Springs Road, Tryon Street Memorial Drive Extension, and Suber Road. Advanced registration is encouraged on the Neighborhood Services page on the City of Greer website. We will be providing supplies for the cleanup for the event. The second annual Greer Relief Week is scheduled for April 23rd through the 29th of this year. It's a week-long event that features various events and locations throughout Greer to support the mission of Greer Relief to eliminate poverty and prevent homelessness in our community. So please visit greerrelief.org for the schedule of events. The dedication of the Center for the Arts Butterfly Project and screening of the film Beloved, Children of the Holocaust will occur on Holocaust Remembrance Day, April 18th at 6 p.m. You may remember that we had hosted a butterfly painting event in remembrance of all the children who were lost in the Holocaust. The project will feature those painted ceramic butterflies in a permanent art installation in remembrance of the 1.5 million children who were killed in the Holocaust. This is a project in collaboration with the Greenville Jewish Federation. We were very thankful to participate in that, and our thanks to Mr. Barry and his family for their support of the project. Please make plans to attend the Greer Goes Global International Fest, April 29th. You can travel the world in City Park while enjoying the sights, sounds, and tastes of more than 30 countries. And finally, the Farmers Market is back in town. Returns to the park May 2nd. So every Tuesday in the park from 4:30 to 7:30 will be themed events, and it will run through the 29th of August. So please join the Farmers Market for a kickoff party on the 2nd of May as we launch this iconic summer event. Mr. Mayor, unless there's any specific questions, that is the conclusion of my report.
Thank you, sir. Council, let's move to items of old business, the first of which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 6-2023. As you are aware, we had quite a bit of discussion in regards to the first reading of ordinance number 6-2023, and I believe staff has come with either a new recommendation or some ideas in regards to the conversation we had at first reading. Mr. Seifert, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What we bring to you tonight, as presented, is an amended ordinance based on the conversations and concerns that you had during the first reading. Most notable, we'll go over the changes real quickly. In Section 22, paragraphs C and E, those address the purchase price. There was some discussion on when that would be applied, so it would be applied at time of purchase based on the residency of the person that is intended to be interred. So it would not be a rebate, it will be up front. Paragraph D defines the resident as an individual that had a permanent place of residence inside the city, or to include those that moved to an assisted living facility just prior, or by living in the city just prior to moving to the assisted living facility. And then the most notable change in paragraph F, because of the way it was rewritten to adjust for those concerns, just requires the mortuaries to cooperate with the city in verifying the residency status of the interred individuals. And we feel that that addresses the concerns based on the discussion that we had at first reading.
Thank you, sir. For the purpose of discussion and questions, I'll entertain a motion to receive. And a second?
Second.
Floor is open for discussion or questions.
Is the price in a separate schedule somewhere?
Yes, sir, that'll be the second action item you take under old business tonight, will be the fee schedule. Yes, sir.
If you look at paragraph C, it states there that the burial spaces, the sale price would be consistent with the comprehensive fee schedule, which is set each year with the budget ordinance. And then the second ordinance, just following this one, addresses that, that sale price.
Others?
Looks like we got the residency thing pretty much ironed out.
There's quite a bit of discussion about that. This seems to be a little bit more logical than possibly where we were, and if it becomes questionable or problematic, we can always address that at some point in the future. Others? Questions, comments? Comes obviously with a recommendation from staff. Mr. Tishinkle.
Mr. Arrowood.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Hopper.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Let's move to the second and final reading of ordinance number 7-2023. This is an ordinance of the city of Greer, South Carolina, amending the comprehensive fee schedule for city-owned cemeteries. Mr. Seifert.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The pricing that was established at first reading remains the same. This is just a very minor text amendment that basically refers the comprehensive fee schedule back to the Chapter 22 that we just had second reading on, using the residency status definition that is included in the cemetery ordinance.
Comes with a recommendation from staff. For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So,
Second.
And a second. Floor is open for discussion. questions?
David, this may be just a little typo, but the underlying statement to receive resident rate and proof of city residency of shall be provided, I think there's an extra of in there.
I think you are correct, yes, sir. We will make that Scrivener's error correction.
Thank you.
Others? Hearing none, Mr. Schenkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you to the staff. Council, the first item of new business this evening is a matter that I don't know that we come across very regularly. Apparently, this has happened once in my tenure, and I don't recall it right off. But from time to time, we may find ourselves in a position where staff has advised a local business in regards to a suspension or a revocation of a business license. We are at that point tonight and are going to be accompanied this evening, or at least led in the discussion, by Heather Towner, who is our business license inspector. We have also asked Daniel Hughes, who is our attorney, to join us this evening. Daniel, it may be advisable for you to come to the podium, if you will, at this point in time, to give us some oversight of what we're doing, because unlike most of what we deal with in terms of new business items related to ordinances, this is a legislative action that, as I mentioned before, doesn't happen often, and will require us to act in such a way that we will be making a decision in regards to either the revocation of the license. So with that, would you give us an overview, please, sir?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a hearing to consider whether or not to revoke the business license of a business known as the Empanada Shack LLC. And the owner of that business, Mr. Julio Vidal, is also present with us. This evening. Your business license ordinance provides for our business license office to issue a notice of suspension to a business for various reasons. And one of those reasons is failure to pay its business license tax, or a tax owed to the city. And the evidence that will be presented to you tonight is evidence that Empanada Shack has failed to pay the tax, its hospitality tax owed to the city. The ordinance further provides that within 30 days of the city's notice of suspension, that we have to have a hearing before you, and which is what we're doing this evening. He was served with notice of suspension on March the 31st, and so we are approximately 12 days subsequent to the notice of suspension to him. And the issue before you tonight is whether to revoke his business license. And depending on your decision, which is done based upon how you normally vote, based on a motion and a second, is by a majority vote. And depending on that decision, then I will then I will prepare a formal decision for you to adopt. That's what our ordinance requires. Now, since this is a judicial proceeding, and the law recognizes that, because the business owner has due process rights, and he has a business interest, and we're seeking to terminate that interest. So he has a right to present evidence to you. He has a right to cross-examine the witnesses for the city. So this is a trial, and you are the fact finders in the case. So you're the judges, and just like any other matter before you, you also have the right to question witnesses. You can and engage in your own debate. So it's a little informal than a typical trial, but it is a more of a formal proceeding than maybe we're used to, and that is for the purpose of protecting the due process rights of the holder of the business license. And so when you're ready, I will begin by calling Heather Towner, who is the witness for the city, and will present the factual basis for the suspension and the revocation.
Council, any questions of the counselor? Hearing none, we will proceed.
All right. I'm going to start by handing you copies of documents that I'm going to ask Ms. Towner about this evening. Do we need a separate microphone, or is it going to pick up? Got it. All right, Ms. Towner, if you would just state your name for the record,
Heather Towner,
and what is your position with the city?
business license inspector.
Okay, and how long have you had that position?
A year, 6 months.
And are you familiar with the business Empanada Shack LLC?
Yes.
And where was it located in the city?
It was originally a food truck, then it went to Cartwright Food Hall at 215 Trade Street, and now it has gone back to a food truck.
Okay. And do you know the name of the owner of the business?
Julio Vidal.
And is he present today in for the hearing?
Yes.
And at 215 Trade Street, that's within the city limits of Greer?
Yes, sir.
And is that a restaurant business serving food and beverages?
Yes.
And because of that, is it subject to the hospitality tax of the city?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just tell the council just briefly about, just brief background of what the hospitality tax is and when it's to be paid by the business licensee?
The local hospitality tax is a 2% fee imposed by the city of Greer on sales of all prepared meals and beverages. The restaurant collects that 2% hospitality tax from its customers. That hospitality tax is due on the 20th of each month for the month prior.
Okay. And our hospitality fee tax ordinance is contained within ordinance number 82-141 through 147?
Yes.
Okay. And does it provide for late fees for hospitality tax not paid timely?
Yes.
And what are those late fees?
5% each month, increasing 5% each month that they don't, that it's past due.
So if you were late for 2 months, it'd be 10%.
Yes.
3 months, 15%. All right. Ms. Towner, I'm going to show you the first document that council has is a document dated October 5th of 2020. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a hospitality or accommodations tax notification giving the restaurant owner or restaurant owner notification that they are required to pay hospitality tax.
So this is the city's standard notice to any business that if they're serving food or beverages, that they have to pay, they're subject to a hospitality tax.
This is given to them when they obtain their business license.
And this is the one given to Empanada Shack on October 5th of 2020.
Yes.
The next document is a reporting form. Do you see that document?
Yes.
And that is dated June of 2022, for the month of June 2022.
Yes.
And can you tell council what this document is?
This is the monthly hospitality reporting form. This is where they would report their monthly hospitality that they collected and any penalties.
And so it's the responsibility of the business licensee to fill out this form each month and submit it to the city.
Yes.
And when is the last time the city received this form from Empanada Shack?
We received July 27th of 2022 for the month of June of 2022.
Okay. And since that time, have you received any reporting forms from this business?
No.
So currently, how many months delinquent is Empanada Shack?
8 months.
Now, since the business became delinquent, have you reached out to the business owner to advise him that he is to pay his hospitality tax?
Yes.
Okay. How many times have you attempted to talk to the business owner or employees of the business in person?
In person, 10 maybe.
And that's by you going to 215 Trade Street and trying to see if you could find Mr. Vidal and talk to him about his delinquent fee?
And also the food truck.
Now, you've also sent in various written correspondence to Mr. Vidal, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The next document in your packet there is an email dated December 5th of 2022. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And is that an email from you to the business owner?
Yes.
And what are you, just summarize what you're advising him of in the email?
Advising him that he is, his July, August, September, and October hospitality tax are due, and that there is a penalty.
All right, the next document is an email dated December 28, 2022. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And what are you advising the business owner of in that email?
This is an email that shows that the recipient received the email.
Okay. And in the second page, he's received it, but then you're also advising him that he's still delinquent
Yes.
in his hospitality taxes for the months of July through November of 2022.
Yep.
Okay. And then above that is an email from a lady named Doris.
Yes.
Are you familiar with a lady named Doris?
I am.
Okay. And what role did she have with the business?
I believe she was a business partner at one time.
Okay. And what did she acknowledge in the email back to you on or about December 28th, 2022?
That they are super behind on hospitality taxes.
And so that email to you acknowledges that they owed the hospitality tax.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Towner, the next document I'm going to show you is a certified letter from you dated January the 6th of 2023. Do you see that?
Yes.
And just briefly, can you summarize the provisions of your letter to the business?
It cites the city ordinance and the restaurant owner's obligation to pay the hospitality tax.
And it cites the various code sections that establish the authority for the city to collect that tax.
Yes.
Does it further advise him that it is also a violation of the ordinance that subjects him to an ordinance summons to appear in municipal court?
Yes, it does, along with the dates that he is delinquent.
And on the page after this, is that a certified mail green card signed by Mr. Vidal on January the 24th of 2023?
Yes.
And also, if you will turn to this standalone document, do you recognize this warning document?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
It's a warning issued by the finance department.
Okay, and was that delivered to Mr. Vidal?
This was not delivered to Mr. Vidal.
Okay. Was it, how was it issued, or what would you do with it after you filled it out?
It was issued to, in an envelope to one of his employees.
Okay. And this warning notice, what's the intent of this warning notice?
That he had 5 days to pay it, or he would get a summons to court.
And was that summons issued?
That summons was issued, yes.
Okay. And what was the original court date of that summons?
May 22nd.
Okay.
March 22nd.
March 22nd.
Sorry.
And that was eventually rescheduled for next week, correct? And that's based upon the violation of the ordinance summons and whether or not he's subject to pay any fines to the court.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the next document in your packet is an email from Kenna McClarty. And who is Kenna?
Kenna is my manager.
Okay. And this was an email from her to the business?
Yes.
Correct, okay. And what is it advising, what is Ms. McClarty advising the business of?
She's advising them that why we collect the 2% hospitality tax, and that we don't have a payment plan in place for businesses to pay the hospitality tax.
And the reason for that is that that's a fee collected from the customer. This is to be held in a separate account and then issued to the city.
Correct.
All right, Ms. Towner, the next document in your packet is a report form from the city. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a business record from the city showing unremitted hospitality tax and for what months they're unremitted.
And is this a standard business record that's maintained by the city?
Yes.
Okay. And currently, how many months delinquent is Empanada Shack?
8.
All right, and the last document I have in your packet is the notice of suspension. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. And is that advising the business of the hearing that's to take place currently that we're having today?
Yes.
Okay. And further advising him of his rights to appear at this hearing, to confront witnesses, and have legal counsel present?
Yes.
Okay, and that's all pursuant to our business license ordinance, correct?
Correct.
And how was that notice issued to him?
It was certified mailed, and I hand delivered it to him on March 31st.
Now, subsequent to the issuance of this notice of suspension, are you aware of whether or not the business has continued to operate in the city?
He has.
And where is he operating?
701 South Buncombe Road.
And that's in the city limits?
It is.
Okay, and that's operating out of his food truck?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have of Ms. Towner. At this time, Mr. Vidal has a right to ask any questions of Ms. Towner.
What email are you using for the business?
And, sir, hold on. We're establishing an audio recording, so you'll need to step up. You can use that.
Oh, okay.
Hand that. Yeah, here you go.
So what am I just asking the questions?
You have a right to, sorry. You have a right to ask her any questions
Okay.
about this issue.
So Heather, since Empanada Shack has started, who have you been communicating with as far as hospitality taxes, paying you and communicating with?
There's been 2 emails, empanadashacksc@gmail.com and there's it's Doris's email, but I have it right here.
DJKA.
DJKA721@gmail.com.
So I think that email is getting used a lot. Doris took care of all the hospitality taxes. She took care of everything. And you know that, you dealt with her. I never,
You've got to ask her questions.
oh,
I don't mean
again,
to-
this is my first time, so,
I know.
yeah.
You can't testify. You have a chance to testify later.
Okay. So you dealt with Doris with the hospitality taxes. She's the one who took care of them when we had the food truck, correct?
Before, when you had the food truck prior, I was not in the position position that I'm in now, I
Okay.
believe.
She took care of the truck, or the thing. When we had the food truck for the first year prior to Cartwright Food Hall, were we ever late on our taxes?
I don't know.
We were never late.
I don't know.
Do I tell my story, or this is just asking questions? Because I'm not sure.
This time, Mayor and Council, he has a right to ask questions. That you have a right to testify after, but you have to finish asking your questions of her
Okay,
first.
got it. I mean, that was pretty much it. Have we ever been late with the food truck? And Doris has the one that's always, 100% of the time, always taking care of the hospitality taxes. I've never done it. She was always in charge of it. That's all I got to say on that. And
Okay. Will council get the opportunity to ask questions of Ms. Towner?
Let me do that. Ms. Towner, we've touched briefly previously on your efforts to discuss the delinquent business hospitality tax with Emmett Johnny Shack. And how many times have you had a conversation or attempted to have a conversation with them about their delinquency?
Several.
Okay. And did they ever deny that they were delinquent?
No.
And when how many times have you had any personal interaction with Mr. Vidal?
3.
And at those times, were you there advising him that he needed to pay the hospitality tax?
I was.
Did he ever advise you that he never got notice?
He said he did not get the certified letter that I sent him, but I handed it to him. So he did get.
not that letter, the one you gave to my employees, I said I didn't have it. The
Oh.
one you gave to me.
Time out. When was that conversation you had with him about that you handed it to him?
March 31st.
And the certified mail notice that you sent on January the 6th that he signed for, did you ever get a call from him in response to that?
I don't believe so. No.
All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Vidal, if we could, just to make sure that council has all the questions answered by Ms. Towner, if you would resume a seat for just a second, and we'll call you back up for testimony and then questions in just a minute, please, sir. Council, the floor is open to ask Ms. Towner questions or to clarify anything that you've heard, or to be more specific about anything you've heard while we've got her here at the podium.
Ms. Towner, can you clarify the first time that you had direct contact with Mr. Vidal about the matter?
Direct contact?
With him directly? You mentioned 3 times.
Direct contact was, the first time I had direct contact with him was, I believe, when I issued him his summons.
Mr. Vidal may want to speak to this as well. Can you, either one of you, can you share who filled out the original business license application at the time? What?
Whose name is on the business license?
Empanada Shack.
Who signed for it?
I didn't bring the business license.
Okay. Was that what you were asking?
Yes, in essence. The original applicant on behalf of the business, what I'm curious for, and then subsequent years, I'm curious who filled that application out each year.
Mr. Harper, I don't have the copies of the application, so I couldn't represent to the council tonight who filled that out.
Yeah, no problem.
So, in your experience, who is Doris?
Doris is a coworker of Julia's.
Who is the partner in the LLC? Do we know that? There is none. There is none?
But you have filed as a LLC with the state?
Yeah, without a LLC, yeah.
Pardon?
My wife helped me, when it comes to the business part of the business, my wife did pretty much everything. All I did was pretty much cook, pretty much what I did. And then we separated, but you guys did hear the story, but there's no partner, and Doris is the one who took care of all the hospitality taxes.
So Doris isn't your wife, she was an
No,
employee?
she's mine. We never were married, but we're together 27 years. She's my
Okay,
wife.
so she set you guys up as a partnership?
No, she just set me up. She just helped me do the LLC instead of getting an accountant. She does that, so she set it up.
So this person, Doris, is this the one you're referring to as wife also?
Yeah, that's her, yeah.
All right, let's, at this point in time, let's focus on testimony from Ms. Towner, if we might. We'll offer Mr. Vidal a chance to be cross-examined. When the city was asked by Doris if you had a payment plan, I don't see a date, that's, well, maybe there. When did you or someone from your office respond back?
Kenna responded via email on, January 31st.
Okay, and so this, I don't know when, there's no date on when this Doris sent the email. And one other, final question. You said that the way I understood it is the way the ordinance is written, the business owner is supposed to collect the tax from the paying customer.
Correct. 2%.
Okay. Yes, I understand that. Or, now, is that what our ordinance says? That they are supposed to collect it, or they're supposed to pay 2% on their fee?
The state law says they collect it, the city law says they pay it.
Yeah.
Do what?
It's a state law.
The 2%?
Yeah.
Right, but does it say that we actually collect that, or that that the business owner is to pay that? You follow what I'm saying?
It probably includes both of that in the ordinance.
See,
Right here.
82-146, well, first of all, 82-145 of our ordinance says payment of the local hospitality tax shall be the responsibility of the consumer of the services described in this article. Tax shall be paid at the time of delivery of the services on items to which the tax applies and shall be collected by the provider or seller of the services or item. Then 82-146 said the tax is collected, referred to in the previous ordinance, shall be remitted to the city licensed administrator as set forth in this article, along with such return or form as may be established by the city business license administrator.
You could theoretically have a tax-free day for your customers, but you still gotta pay that tax.
No, I understand that, and I know that 2% has to be paid to the city. Right. Yeah, I was just making sure that we were clear on how it was to be collected.
So this is the same business license that the food truck operated under, correct?
Yes.
And they're operating the food truck now.
Correct.
Since they left their brick and mortar location, have they been paying this tax?
No, sir.
So they're actually delinquent beyond the dates you've got here, right?
This includes the dates, this includes the months that they were also a food truck after they left Cartwright Food Hall.
Mr. Bettis, I think if my understanding is correct, they shut down the restaurant in the Cartwright Food Hall in February of this year.
Okay, and since February, they've been operating the food truck,
Correct.
and they've been paying the tax since then?
They have not.
Okay, that's not listed.
March would not be due until the 20th of this month, right?
March would not be due until the 20th of April, so it's only listed until February because March is currently not delinquent.
So, Ms. Towner, there is considerable correspondence with Doris. Acknowledging known payments, asking for payment plans, asking for explanations. Our replies with the penalty structure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, ad nauseum. Was it our understanding that she was associated with the business?
When I originally sent emails, I sent them to both empanadashack@gmail, and I also sent them to Doris. And the correspondence was from responding to her, which is why it shows her only getting a response, because we were responding to her.
But it was our assumption that she worked either for or with the owner of Empanada Shack. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
So how would we determine what would be owed from the lacking months?
Mr. Booker, we would have to have them fill out report forms and submit those to the city, just like they have for the last 8 months, in order to know what they would owe. But beyond that, we're in the dark.
So because we don't have the data of the sales, what was collected for those months, we have no idea, no way to know
That's
what is
correct.
actually owed.
Correct.
I apologize for my continued lack of clarity on this. Do you have an idea of the date that you made personal contact first with Mr. Vidal?
Personal contact was the day that I served the summons, which was on February. February 14th.
To your knowledge, Ms. Towner, has there been any attempt to address any of the past 8 months in terms of payments?
Other than Doris asking for a payment plan, no.
Thank you.
So
So
is
the
this,
penalty amount is based on the gross receipts from the past? What is that
The
based on?
penalty is based on the amount that's due. So it's a percentage of what's actually due, not the gross.
How do we know what's due?
We have to know the gross
In
revenue
the
to know what's
business's
due.
report.
So they haven't given us that information yet? So we don't know exactly what that amount is?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
so January 31st was the last correspondent, there was no reply to that email from the owner?
I don't believe there was any response after that.
On the local hospitality and accommodation tax reporting form that we have from July, last July, do you know whose signature that is under filed by?
I don't know. I believe it's Doris Rivera, but I'm not 100% positive.
Well, at least one of the documents was signed by Mr. Vidal on 1/24/23, correct? It's a registered letter.
Yes, he signed for the certified letter.
Council, other questions?
Just so that we're clear, have you had any phone conversations or anything with Mr. Vidal's at all, other than the one?
No, none other than in person.
Has staff received any explanation as to why business was continued after the notice of suspension on, it was the March 31st, is that right?
No.
No explanation to that effect.
As a general rule, they're delinquent, this business is delinquent 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 months, correct?
Correct.
How long does it normally take for, so that's 8 months. So, do we have a certain set of time that we allow this to go on?
Not that I'm aware of. This is the first time that I've done this, and I'm not sure. I did the due diligence before I issued him a summons, and
So you were not in your position after the first month of delinquency?
I was.
And did you pursue that?
I believe somebody else was pursuing delinquent hospitality tax at that time.
Looks like it would have been pursued every time it was delinquent up to this point.
Yeah. I
Are there,
only have the emails that I sent him.
there varying levels of intensity of pursuing these things as things get more and more delinquent, more and more habitual? I'm sure this isn't the only business that is delinquent, you know, a month here or there. Is that fair, a fair assumption?
That's fair. What, we are, I mean, after a month, they're now getting a certified letter, they're getting a warning, and that usually, the customer usually makes payment.
Initially, reminders, and then more and more forms of reminders and notification.
Yes.
From a level of effort from your standpoint, is that something that's automatic on our end, or do you have to go down the list and literally find each one?
I have to go down, I generate a list, an unremitted report to find out who is delinquent.
Okay, but then you have to turn around and email and
Yes, we have
hunt
to
these folks
manually
down.
do all that, yes.
Now, on page 2, what is the line number 1? I can't really read what that amount was. I want to say it's 4,000, or is it 41,000? I'm not sure.
Mr. Booker, based on privacy information,
Okay.
we want to, it's part of the reason we didn't present this on the
Oh, okay.
slides,
All right,
is
sorry.
that's business license revenue is protected information, so we'll.
Okay. Thank you for
Yep.
letting me know.
Yep.
Sorry.
I should have clarified that before we started.
I just thought it was a bad copy or something.
I think the point's been well made that for every month we don't have data, that recouping cost becomes subjective at some point. Others? Thank you, ma'am. If we have more questions, we'll get back with you.
David Seifert's present. If council has any other questions they want to ask regarding general procedure for notifying delinquent business owners of their delinquent taxes. He's available if council needs clarification on that.
Mr. Seifert, I would have at least one question I think that's already been raised. I think it's valid that 1 month might not trigger anything other than a reminder. I can't say that I have, in the last 20 years, not been a little bit late on an ethics report or something. I mean, it happens from time to time. Do we have a policy about delinquent payments, or is that handled on a case-by-case basis? Or what do we do in this event? I can see where if one's late, friendly reminder's sufficient. If two's late, we need to have a face-to-face or email to email or a call or something. 3 months probably warrants some sort of action. 8 months seems like a long time to have let this go, so.
Yes, sir. We do have that policy written in the finance department. The reminder started that, 1 month, 2 month emails, phone calls. We have our first letter, we just call it the first letter. That's the written reminder. And then each month after that, it gets progressively a little more stern to where we get to the courtesy warning, which precedes the warrant or summons. So, it just, the letters, so we have, phone calls, emails, letters, warning, summons. But during that time, and that all of that process generally is about 5 to 6 months. And then during that time, we had staff turnover in this position, the person enforcing delinquency, as well as the manager in the department. So people just don't step into this and jump into it and understand what's going on. So there's a learning curve and a training process that we need to go to. So during that time, this got a little extended. So now we're at that 8-month mark.
And according to our ordinance, that is the suspension of the license was ordered by the department. Is that correct?
Correct. We, from staff level, we are only authorized to do a suspension pending the revocation hearing with council.
Others?
How is, if you don't pay your federal tax, eventually you leave in handcuffs?
Yes.
What, because this was going to court, correct?
Correct.
Has it been pushed off?
The first court date was held. As I understand it, Mr. Vidal did not attend the court, and Judge Mims continued that case, and the continuance is April 19th. And at that point, Judge Mims advised Ms. Towner to go ahead and proceed with suspension.
Okay, so let's assume that any person that's not paying, it gets to the very end, it's not paying. So what is the final?
We were having this discussion today. The state law that surrounds business license is, as you're aware, with life and safety, police matters, they have the physical authority to physically shut you down and lock your doors. Under business license law, we are not allowed to deny you the right to earn your living. But if you are delinquent or you are suspended and operating without being properly authorized and properly licensed, we are authorized to issue you a summons to court with a fine for every day, and each day is a new occurrence. So we would be writing a ticket every day that we were not, that the business would not be properly authorized and properly licensed.
So that would be the judicial handling of that situation would be this, whatever the judge imposed is in terms of, which could be this fine that is described in here as, what is it, $50 or $500?
The maximum municipal level fine is $500 or 30 days imprisonment. Those are the sentencing alternatives for the court. This is dealing strictly with his business license.
So is it possible then to pay the $500 fine and continue to be in business?
Now, that's a separate issue. This is simply to do with his business license, which you have the authority.
The ordinance describes that we have the authority to.
But it constitutes a ordinance, some violation that subjects the business owner to a criminal proceeding, including fine or imprisonment, which is standard for any misdemeanor level offense in the city of Greer.
So, does the city have, how do you say the state can come shut you down? Does the city have the power to do that?
If you revoke the business license, yes. That's why, when I started off, the ordinance provides this due process hearing. Because as Mr. Seifert said, you know, he has a business interest. And so he has a right to come in and present his own evidence and cross-examine witnesses. Now, can the city, could the business owner be revoked and then just say, well, I'm just going to keep operating? I mean, he could, but he'd be subject, as Mr. Seifert was saying, he could be subject to a criminal fine and a new summons for every day he's violating our ordinance, which would be substantial. And so from a enforcement standpoint, if you revoke the license, the city is just going to have to be, and he continued to operate, or any business owner continued to operate, the city's just going to be proactive in monitoring that. But this is our remedy based upon the violation of our business ordinance, and which is the issue before you is whether or not to revoke.
So do we have the power tonight, let's say he says, you know, I'll come current. Do we have that, or is it either yes or no, suspension, or is there a remedy to what can be occurred tonight?
The council has the authority to suggest remedies, and Mr. Seifert probably has some would have a input into that, and I could give my own input into that. But I think since you are the decision maker in this case, I do think you have the authority to, for example, if you were to say to the business owner, if you don't pay your hospitality tax within a period of time, then we're going to issue an order revoking you and you're done. I think that would be within your prerogative to do that, although my position would be there had to be some very tight strings on that, given the delinquency of 8 months. I think
He's already operating under suspension. Why would we allow that to continue at this point? All right, so Mr. Vidal has the opportunity to come to the podium and address the council at this point.
May I ask one more question, Mayor?
Sure.
I'm sorry. If we do revoke the business license tonight and he comes current, you know, does what needs to be done, does he have the ability to reapply for a business license in the future? How does that work?
I do believe he'd have opportunity to reapply, and if he set everything straight in the future. This is not, the ordinance does not contemplate a permanent
So we
revocation.
can address this cleanly one way or the other tonight, and he still has an opportunity to address it, is what I'm understanding. and potentially do business in the
Right.
city again.
That's yes, but that would have to be after he,
Sure. Took care of what needs to be taken care
that's
of.
correct.
Mr. Cypher, you want to add to that?
Please. Our ultimate goal would obviously be compliance. We want businesses to be successful here, but we have rules that all businesses operate under, and we have to treat all businesses fairly. So the restaurants that are paying as required under the ordinance, we have to be fair to them to pursue and enforce on those that aren't. With the communication and the efforts that we have had over the last 8 months, granted, some of them were not in person, but we have given ample opportunity for compliance. But ultimately, that's what we would wish for, would be compliance. Pay what is due that you have collected from your customers, and please continue and please comply going forward. I mean, ultimately, that's what we want. We want businesses to be here and to be successful.
I said one more, but one more. Can you give us an estimate, and you may or may not be able to, can you give us an estimate of how many businesses in the city currently have to submit this type of reporting and this type of tax?
Right. Restaurants in the business, it would be a guess, but it's going to be somewhat close, I guess. We have over about 4,500 businesses in the city, and of that, I would venture that 500 maybe, 300, more than 500 are restaurants that are reporting this form. And of those, we have less than 10 that are in a delinquency status.
I think there's some expectation as well, too, that if you're a business owner, while you may, for whatever reason, whatever good reason, be late on a payment or even miss a payment, that there should be some reasonable expectation that there is going to be a day of reckoning somewhere down the line. If you chose not to pay your electric bill for 8 months, and you came in the next morning and flipped the light switch and nothing happened, I think that would be a reasonable expectation that you reached the limit of what the power company was willing to give you. And so at some point, there has to be a decision made. And it would seem to me that, based on the information that we've got now, that we have reached that point of reasonableness. But we will offer an opportunity to Mr. Vidal to give us his side of things. I think at this point, is that correct?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that Mr. Bell would have an opportunity to ask Mr. Cypher any questions that, since Mr. Cypher provided testimony here. Do you have any? So having none, that's all the city's evidence, and Mr. Vidal has the opportunity now to address council.
Thank you.
Council? So just a little backstory. Moved here 5 years ago from Jersey. I was a dental hygienist, never worked in a restaurant, never had a business. When I moved here, I was doing real estate. COVID happened. I love to cook. I started making empanadas for my subdivision. Little by little, orders started getting big, and I ended up getting the food truck. It's been the toughest, hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I've never been happier. The business part of it is what I struggle with. My wife is the one that takes care of all the paperwork, all the paying the taxes. I just want to cook, take care of the customers. She took care of all that. From your records, I never dealt with Heather in the beginning with our food truck for a year. My wife took care of the payments. While at Cartwright Food Hall, me and my wife split up. There was a lot of stuff. I thought things were getting taken care of with the hospitality taxes. So at one point, yes, Doris did call and say, hey, we're delinquent back down on the taxes. I said, can you find out how much it is? Never realized until Heather came on February, whatever that day was, to serve me, that it was that 6 months behind. That's the first time I realized it was 6 months behind. I thought we were just a month, 2. I thought it was getting taken care of. Because prior to Cartwright Food Hall, I took care of my hospitality taxes every single month. Not one delinquent. So it's not that I don't want to pay the taxes, not that I'm trying to get over. It's just I did not know. I did not know. And then, so during the process of the food truck, I tried to get into Gather Greenville. It was a process, didn't happen at that time. I got the opportunity to be in Cartwright Food Hall. So while at Cartwright Food Hall, I get a call from Gather Greenville. They have a spot for us. That's why I'm at Cartwright Food Hall, because we're going to be in Gather June 1st. Has nothing to do with not wanting to pay. I did not know. We were this backed up. I did not know. There's a lot of stuff in the business that she was taking care of that I'm starting to catch up to now. But that's the story. I'm not making excuses. This is just the reasoning why I haven't paid them. Once I got out of Cartwright Food Hall, the taxes are not 8 months delinquent, because I didn't open the food truck as soon as I left Cartwright Food Hall. I just opened the food truck a week and a half ago. I had to get work done to the food truck, get it inspected, because I had it shut down for 8 months. So I did not work right after I got out of Cartwright Food Hall. I was trying to find a permanent lot to get onto, and we finally found a permanent lot, which is where Heather served me the papers on. I plan to pay these taxes, but being out of Cartwright Food Hall since February and not being able to work, I was a dental hygienist for 17 years. Financially, it's been tough on me the last month and a half, just transitioning from Cartwright back to the truck. I'm going to pay the taxes if I can just get 2 weeks. That's all I need. I need 2 weeks, and I'll pay the taxes by the end of the month. Just let me get my truck, let me operate, and you guys will get paid by the end of the month.
Where is your truck now?
It's on the Exxon station on South Buncombe.
Are we,
Clarification then. I'm not you mentioned a permanent location for your food truck. You're
Well,
renting
not
a
permanent,
space-
meaning that's the only spot I stay at. So I have a lot that I take it off of on South Line Street. So it's permanent as far as that's the only place I operate out of,
Where you're serving.
where I serve at, yeah. And then sometimes we'll do event, like we were at the International Festival, but then I get an email because we're backed up on the taxes, we can't do the International Festival. Yeah, that festival alone, I could have took care of the taxes, just on that event alone. But again, I'm not making any excuses. I just need the time. I just need the 2 weeks to operate the food truck completely, and I'll be all caught up.
So how often are you moving this truck?
Every day,
Okay.
every day.
Mr. Vidal, when was it, you mentioned, you became aware you had Doris call.
Yes.
When was that?
Probably when Heather started emailing her that we're delinquent, she was telling me that. She called me and told her we're backed up on the taxes.
This
So I was like,
in the fall, or approximately when would that?
approximately, yeah, I'm gonna say about October-ish, November-ish. I got the phone call that the taxes are due. I asked Doris to find out from Heather how much it is. And I still never got that it was 6 months behind until Heather gave me the package. That's the first time on February something that I found out that I was that behind on the taxes.
So when you were notified back in the fall about it, you didn't continue to ask about it?
What fall? In the fall?
In the fall?
No, because I was asking her to find out from Heather, how much is it?
Did you continue to ask her? Because if it was me, I would.
Honestly, I'm a one-man show,
You're the
right?
registered agent for the business.
100%.
Stuff flows downhill to you.
Oh, and I'm starting to get that, right?
I don't
But-
care who handles your paperwork.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just, I'm learning. This is all brand new to me. I'm learning. This is school, and I get it. Trust me. But again, I'm not making excuses. This is the reason. This is just my reason. That's it.
Well, if you're able to do it in 2 weeks, why couldn't you make that determination last fall?
Because I didn't know I was 6 months backed up, and Cartwright was slow. Not knowing the business, I didn't know how to hire. Right? My labor costs were high. My food costs were high. I'm running a business. Yeah, I know how to cook. But the business part of it, I sucked at. I mean, without Doris, the business would have went down a long time ago, right? Because I don't do paperwork, and it's not my forte. It's not what I do,
how's
right?
it gonna be any different from here on out if you don't?
Because I hired somebody that's Zaxby's manager, and she's going to be coming on board with us at Gather Greenville. She's going to be taking care of the paperwork, food costs, inventory. I know what I'm not good at. I know what I'm not good at.
So Doris has been paying all the bills for the last 6 or 8 months.
Just the hospitality, like rent from Cartwright, I take care of. Like anything,
So how are you getting food or supplies?
No,
Or
I get the food.
Insurance on the
I buy
truck
the
or
food.
the truck payments?
oh, no,
or
so
all that
insurance,
kind
she
of
takes,
stuff?
insurance, she takes care of. Like shopping, I go to Restaurant Depot. I'm a one-man show, I go to Restaurant Depot, Walmart. I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place. But when it comes to just the paperwork stuff, taxes, she takes care of that.
So
But
she
it's-
paid all your bills, but not your taxes?
No, she pays the taxes, the hospitality taxes. But I thought she was, but we were broken up. We broke up, so we're not together anymore. So during that process, it was very hostile. I didn't know what she was doing. She wasn't paying, she wasn't taking care of it. She just quit.
So how are you getting food and supplies and all those other things you needed on a weekly basis?
I'm taking it out of my bank account. I'm using my card.
So you're paying those bills?
Yeah. Yeah, because she can't go to Restaurant Depot, like,
Did you ever
again, I'm
check-
not weak at, that's not my weak point is going to Restaurant Depot. Like, I love going to Restaurant Depot, actually. But, it's just the paperwork stuff. Just anything that has to do with paperwork, I'm not good at. I never have been.
Whose email is the Empanada Shack?
That's mine.
Okay, so were you getting these email correspondence?
I was starting to get I was going to get CC'd on them when Doris was asking how much and stuff like that, payment plan, I was getting CC'd on it. And I'm sure in the beginning it was coming to there when we had the food truck only. But again, at that point, everything was getting taken care of. Like we would
Some
never,
of those date back to last year.
no, but I had the food truck. Cartwright, we were in Cartwright from June of 21, of 22 to February. So there shouldn't have been anything delinquent before that.
Basically, Cartwright is what's owed.
Yeah, that's all that's owed, just Cartwright.
Do you have employees?
I had too many.
Too many?
Yeah, I didn't know how to hire. I figured I need somebody to do this. I never worked in a restaurant, so I didn't know delegation. I didn't
Who
know
handles the payroll and all that stuff?
Doris was handling payroll.
How long has she been gone?
We broke up right before Christmas.
So who's been handling that since?
Well, we just closed down in February, and I haven't operated till a week and a half ago. I just got the food truck back out, so I'm gonna start making the payments again. I'm taking control, and I'm gonna start taking care of the hospitality taxes. But I just need 2 weeks, and now I know, I got the paperwork, showed me how to sign it and fill it out with the numbers, so I just do that every month. It's not hard work, right? It's just so much on my plate. I just got so much, like,
Did you not get the notice to appear in court?
I did get it. I forgot. It was during the process of me leaving court. It was just a lot. I forgot about it. It's not that I didn't want to go to court. I totally forgot about it.
Will you be there on the 19th?
100%.
But you knew in December that you were in arrears.
Yeah, but I didn't know how far I was in arrears. So I was telling Doris, find out how much it is. And then I guess that's when she was calling to find out, and then she realized it was that much, and she said, can we do a payment plan?
So when she was out of the picture,
Yeah.
why didn't you come, I'm asking genuinely, why didn't you come and say, listen, I want to figure out how to figure this out? I don't even know what to do. What forms do I need to file? I may not be able to pay everything right now. What do I need to do?
I wish
Did
I
you
knew
show
I
up
could have
and do
did that, Mark. I wish I could have came in here and talked to somebody regarding the solution. But talking to Heather, it was just like, it has to get paid, or you're going to get your license suspended. I didn't know there was options of coming in and talking to somebody.
Well, not necessarily options coming in, but they've given you months and months to get this done.
No, but remember the first time she...
And it's, just because you didn't know is not an excuse. And I've got a feeling if you got employees and you haven't been paying your 2% tax and you're not paying all your unemployment taxes that's due to the state, you better make sure all that's done.
All that's getting taken care of. It's just the hospitality taxes. That's the only thing that we're...
You don't have to convince me, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when I mentioned leaving in cuffs, yeah, they won't be as nice as us.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Were you aware of the suspension on the 31st of March?
Yes, yeah.
Why did you keep operating?
Because and it wasn't operating. I had a few catering that I had pre-arranged, and they came to the truck, picked it up. And I know I wasn't, but it was already pre-ordered, prepaid. So I had people come to the truck and pick up the orders, because they were
That, unfortunately, that's, in my estimation, that's operating the city, Mr. Vidal.
And Mark, I mean, again, this is my only means of money. I have nobody here. I'm from Jersey. I have zero family here. I'm by myself, like literally by myself. So I don't have nobody I can call. If I need a tomato, there's nobody that I can call to go pick up a tomato for me. There's nobody that I can call to do, I do everything. So things are gonna fall through the crack. I'm learning. This is all brand new. 6 months of intense, like, it's a lot, and I'm learning. I know I screwed up, but it wasn't intentional, it wasn't on purpose, it wasn't because I was trying to get over. It was simply a misunderstanding, and I didn't know. What I do know is that you guys will get paid in 2 weeks. That much I do know, if I can continue operating my truck.
Will that be true, whatever our action is tonight,
What do you mean?
if we do revoke the license?
I don't have no way of making money. I will have to leave to Jersey. I mean, I have no way of making money,
Well,
none.
There's more places to do business in the upstate than the city of Greer.
Yeah, but to now, remember, that's gonna take time now, right? Now I have to try to book events. I have to try to find a lot. If I'm trying to pay this in 2 weeks, it could take me a week, 2 weeks it took me a week and a half to find this lot.
So in my humble opinion, I'm the nicest guy up here. But if we say, you've been going through a rough time, you split up with your significant other, et cetera, what do I tell one of the 500 other restaurants tomorrow? Why are you not enforcing?
Because if you told them the story, I'm sure they will understand as business owners.
No, every business owner goes through
No,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Everybody does.
And I'm sure they will be understanding. I'm sure they wouldn't.
And I'm one of
Yeah.
them.
Right. And, I mean, if they genuinely knew the story, I think they would be understanding and give me 2 weeks. That's my honest opinion. Now, if I told them I needed a month or 2 months, it's different. I just need 2 weeks. I just need 2 weeks. And there's no other way of me paying for it. There's no other way. If my truck gets shut down, I'm done. I'm
Can you
done.
provide the figures we need for that time period? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, I could get them to you.
How much you owe.
I owe about, I didn't realize that June got paid. So in my calculations, I had added June. Didn't realize it was paid. So the numbers is about $1,800 is what I owe.
For the entire period?
For the whole entire period.
That's penalties and everything?
Yeah, it was $2,500, but now I seen June got taken, well, no, because I'm sorry. This is up to December. I didn't do January because I barely did any numbers in January, February. But if you add another 400, we're probably looking at 2,200. That's what I owe total.
With penalties and everything?
Yeah, with penalties and everything. Yeah, it's about $800, it was $900 for June, $700. If you look at car race numbers, they dip dramatically. I mean, I went from crazy number to, in 3 months, dipped all the way down. And that was everybody in the hall.
Do we have these figures?
Hmm?
They haven't been submitted to the city.
I really wish that sometime in the last couple months, we would have at least gotten the reporting form submitted.
I mean, I can get those to you today. I can email those to you today, when I get to the house.
I'm listening to you, but it does bother me that you continue to operate in the city after the suspension that way. I mean, I'm hearing your story. We all have a story. I genuinely understand that. Unfortunately, we have black and white. That's the same for everybody. You know what I mean?
When did you find out how to fill out this paperwork?
Heather had bought me some,
Was that within the last week? Or
yeah,
2
and then my
weeks?
wife showed me how to, Heather showed me how to do like the 30%, and then the next month do 25%, the next month do 20%. And that was, I think, the day that she came and served me is when she showed me how to do it. That was the first time I ever even seen that paperwork.
Have you filled that paperwork out yet for what you owe?
For,
The reporting forms.
The reporting forms.
yeah,
Have you reeled
I
up?
have those. I have them.
Okay, because you just said, you could get them to us tomorrow, but I didn't know if you had them filled
No,
out.
they're done. They're done. That's why I pretty much know the figure.
So you are the sole owner of the
Yes,
LLC?
100%.
Did you, as the sole owner of the LLC, empower Doris to act on your behalf?
Like legally, or just like,
Giving her that authority?
oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I told her to take care of the, you know, I pretty much asked her to do the stuff that I'm not good at.
Others?
Now, guys, I know like, if you guys revoke my license, I know I can take my truck, move it into another city, make money. Greer is where the food truck started, right? This is where it was born. Like, the food truck belongs in Greer. It belongs in Greer.
Comments, questions? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hughes, instructions to council now in terms of, we've walked through part of this in a scenario that was presented to you by one of the council members. Let's re-walk that path just a second, please, sir.
Sure.
In
So,
terms of our options at this point.
under our business license ordinance, just again, when the license inspector determines that a license is delinquent in the payment to the municipality of any tax or fee, we shall provide him notice that his license is suspended for the purpose of a revocation hearing. And tonight you've heard the evidence, which I believe is overwhelming, that one, he's delinquent, but the magnitude of the delinquency is compelling in this case. And I've been city attorney since 2006. I've never handled a business license revocation in the city of Greer, which I think is telling in this case, that it takes a lot for the city to have to get to this point. But your decision tonight, to answer your question, Mayor, is whether or not to revoke the license of the licensee. Now, I have been a part of other business license hearings before where other agreements, which I was referring to earlier, had been reached with the business owner, where they have set up some type of a written agreement to bring the person into compliance. And that's what I was referring to previously. And that would be part of council's discretion as to whether or not to entertain any type of settlement agreement where he was bound to do certain things before he could begin operating again, as opposed to just a revocation. But as we also talked about earlier, this is, if you decided to revoke, it's not a permanent revocation. If he revoked it tonight and he was able to provide sufficient records to the city to pay all the penalties, the tax and penalties in full, he could reapply to receive another business license, and as long as he did what he was supposed to do from the application standpoint, would be eligible to receive another business license to operate. So it's not a revocation. It would not be a death penalty to him operating in the city permanently. He would have an option to reapply, assuming he did what he was supposed to do.
Mr. Seibert, I know in our conversations with Ms. Towner, there was a question similar to the one I asked of Mr. Vidal. Do we concur with his math that he is currently $2,500 delinquent, maybe give or take a month or two here, or do we know?
We have no way of knowing. The taxes that are calculated are reported to us on this reporting form. So where we are today, the business license itself is due to be renewed by April 30th. With that renewal, we do require the tax return, So at that point, we would know what the total revenue earned for the business is, and then we could extrapolate into the hospitality tax that would be owed. But the business license itself has not been renewed. And then, of course, we did the suspension 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and that's where we are today. Again, obviously, as I've stated before, we would, we would certainly entertain, a cure for this, as opposed to really, quote, pushing him out of business or, shutting down the business so that he can't earn a living.
Okay.
But we don't know what that amount is today, no, sir. We have no way of knowing until we get the tax returns and renew the business license.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
If I could just, to that question,
Please.
that page 2 of your packet does show what was owed in June of 2022. And so if you extrapolate that number out times 8,
Those numbers drop half in the next
I'm just,
2 months, they drop
Yeah.
half.
there's a evidence there as to what it could be if you extrapolate that out for 8 months.
And just keep in mind, June was the grand opening, was June 6th, so that whole month of June was crazy in Colorado.
What forms of payment do we take for business? Do we take credit card, everything under the sun?
Yes, sir. Any form of payment, cash, credit, check.
Thank you. All right, council. Like any action, our action tonight will be determined by a majority vote, which means that we may consider more than one proposal that is put before this body tonight. At this point, the floor is open for a suggestion in regards to the suspension that could vary from revoking the license as of this action tonight to whatever else might come before this body for consideration. I will open the floor for a motion at this point, for discussion.
I make a motion that we revoke the business license because we are not a financial institution. He is very capable of going and applying for a $2,500 loan, coming in tomorrow morning, bringing all that to, settling that debt, and then by the end of this month, he would have to provide documents that show what is actually owed.
Comes as a motion for revocation or to revoke it. I'll entertain or need a second at this point for discussion. Motion fails for lack of a second.
Can you clarify what you were moving, Jay?
Well,
You're moving to revoke now, but you're saying to provide.
Well, we're not a lending institution. So in essence, if we said you can operate and give me 2 weeks to come up with $2,500, we're basically giving him a loan for $2,500 to operate. We don't do that. There's people out there who do. And that's what businesses do. They have relationships with financial institutions when they hit a street where they need some operating capital. That's what they go do. Because, like I said, he can come in and if he pays $2,500 tomorrow morning, he could renew it, or I guess the business license would then be back in force. But by April, the end of this month, then all the documentation would have to be shown, and he may or may not owe more or a lot more, I don't know. But that's the,
Mr. Vidal referenced what I know is a big event for a lot of vendors, the International Festival. My concern is it's already, if the upcoming year is not taken care of by then and applied for and paid for based on last year's sales, that's already overdue. So I certainly, as a owner of a food-oriented business within the city of Greer, I understand the struggles and the things. I am not a detail paperwork-oriented guy myself, but at the same time, those are, I totally get what you're saying. We're not in the business of lending money, right? As business owners, we have to figure that out. It does bother me that there's continued activity after the suspension.
Mr. Hopper, for the purpose of discussion, we've had a motion that failed for lack of a second. If anybody's willing to put a motion back before this group and it gets a second, we'll open the floor for discussion.
I have a motion. Unlike Mark, I think I'm the nicest guy up here. And I'm willing to put that in the form of a motion. Not that. My motion would be that we have all the documents we need to determine this tax by the end of business at the end of this week, no later. That would nullify what I'm about to propose. I'm willing to give you to the end of the month to get this money together and bring current through the month that's about to come to you. Okay, that would be 9 pay periods, 9 periods. You oppose your court date. If we're willing to pass this motion, you'll have something good to tell the judge that you're on track. And if this doesn't happen by the end of the month, we will revoke your license. And you will stay in communication this entire time, whether it's every day or every other day, with our department to make sure everything's going like it's supposed to. That's my motion.
All right, so give us a recap on that for the bullet points, please, if you can.
Keep your court date, all documents by the end of this week, and you have until the end of the month to bring all your hospitality taxes current. Stay in communication, or we will revoke your license at the end of this month.
And end of the month will be the last working day of the month?
Yes.
Which is the 28th.
28th.
Well, you might do 7 days a week, knowing him.
Working day for us.
I do know what it's like to run a business and do everything you do and the details. So I know you can get in a bind. I understand that.
Just for purpose of clarification on your motion, Mr. Bettis, we need to know whether or not he remains under suspension during that interim period.
I would say we allow him to conduct business till the end of the month in order to clear this up. If he hadn't done it by then,
And if I may, just to clarify further, it's an automatic revocation if he fails to meet the terms in your motion.
I agree.
Thank you.
Right.
To include paying for March by the April 20th?
Yes. Well, yes.
Is that
As long as he has them all current by the end of the month.
So March included?
Yes.
Does that allow them to do the international festival?
As long as we allow him to do business, it does, yeah.
Well, that's the 29th then.
Yeah, but, if he works every day,
No, I can get that done without no festival.
okay,
I can get that just out of lot.
gotcha.
So
That's my motion.
did we decide 28th or the?
Well, this man works
Be Monday.
24/7 probably, so I'd give him till the 30th.
That's Sunday.
30th is Sunday.
can't you pay online?
Nope,
You can't?
nope. No.
Well, he needs to be in here at 8:30 Monday morning, May 1st. If you haven't done it before that,
No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come and make payments.
that's even,
Until then, I'm not gonna wait till the last.
that would be even better, yes. But it's important we get that documentation, so we'll know exactly where we stand. Okay.
It's important that documentation include his tax return for 2022.
Well, we got an extension of the taxes, so that's not done.
Yeah, you might-
I just got some real concerns about the accuracy of the documents we're going to be getting. That's my only hesitation, and I'm not a decision maker. I'm just saying, I don't know how in the world we're
Well,
going
you
to.
pay sales tax too, right?
Yeah.
You should have your sales tax, if you're current with them, you should have your sales tax records that we can get the sales off of. You have those?
I have my toll system, my POS system.
My-
It shows the numbers.
Okay, if you file sales tax, you should be able to get a document that says gross income, sales tax, and all that kind of stuff.
My recommendation is that Mr. Seifert, who's got the CPA degree, is that he would advise us what documents we needed to have in the event council went along with your motion
Right.
to verify the accuracy of the information.
I'd be interested to know what
I
staff,
got my 1099, I'm on 1090, whatever. I got that shows how much I made.
Well, in the absence of taxes, I get an extension also. I use sales tax totals to get my business license.
So, Mr. Mayor, there is a motion on the floor. I think to continue discussion, we would need the second.
Are we clear on the date? Is it going to be the first?
May the 1st.
I think May the 1st would be the drop dead. He's either paid it up or he's making the last payment May 1st.
You've heard the motion to keep the court date, May 1st drop dead date, payment in full, automatic revocation if not. As to the matter of suspension, what did we decide on there?
If I understand the motion correctly, would lift suspension until such time as the failure to meet any of the conditions outlined in Mr. Bettis's motion, which would automatically revoke the license.
Can staff do that, or do we have to take a separate action?
I think in this particular case, staff can lift the suspension, because the assumption is that they can operate by this motion until the terms are not met.
Have a motion on the floor to keep the court date, May 1st drop dead date, payment in full, automatic revocation if not met, and lift the suspension. That'll require a second for the floor to be open for discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Floor is open for discussion at this point.
Mr. Mayor, Matt, is this an appropriate time to offer an amendment to the motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move to amend the motion to also include the current year business license be completed and paid for in full. That's due at the end of the month. Is that clear enough to amend?
That's the May 20th.
The end of April. April 30th.
So you would like to add April 30th?
I would like to say we're getting caught up from what's been a problem in the past without fail. And I would also like to make sure that looking forward, the coming year business license is properly documented, applied for, and paid for.
That's, yes. Just out of curiosity for staff, what is his anniversary date for renewal? Everybody's in April, that's what I
They're
thought.
due April 30th, but because it is a Sunday, they get that one extension of one
Yep.
business day, so it's May 1st.
Okay.
So we now have an amended motion that the current business license fees be paid in full by May the 1st as well, too. And I need a second on that at this point.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on the amended, let's see, we'll need we had a motion, we had the amendment and second on the motion. We need to vote on the amendment on the motion as amended.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schinkel.
Mr. Arrowood. Mr. Booker.
For clarification, we are voting on
You're voting on Mr. Hopper's amendment, and then you will be voting on the motion as amended.
the motion as amended.
So there will be two votes taken. This one is on Mr. Hopper's amendment.
yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Hopper.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
No. All right. Now then, we have the motion as amended before us that has and I'll need a second on that. No, we've got the.
No, we have the second,
on
sir.
that.
Yeah.
So what we have now is the original motion, which was to keep the court date, May 1st drop dead, payment in full, automatic revocation if not met, lift the suspension, and the payment of the current business license paid in full on the same date. Any further discussion in regards to that before we vote? Floor is open for questions, discussion. Other comments? Mr. Schinkel.
Mr. Arrowood.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Hopper.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
No. So it passes. So are you clear on what needs to be done? I would suggest you talk to these folks first thing in the morning to make sure that y'all are on the same page, okay? All right. That takes care of that matter. With that, then we'll move to new business. Second item before us this evening is the pavement preservation project, which is the HA surface saver. Mr. Grant joins us for that conversation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You probably recall we did two pilot preservation projects last summer that went very well, and we're proposing two more this year, one with HA5 surface sealer and one with the asphalt rejuvenator product known as Reclamite. The first one in your packet, I believe, is the HA5 surface sealer, and you should have a map of the subdivisions where this product is proposed. Country Meadows off Ansel School Road is one of the subdivisions, and Bent Creek off Westmoreland is the other. These subdivisions were recently crack sealed, and it is common to surface seal after crack sealing. The total treatment is just over 11,000 feet, or 2.1 miles. The contractor is Holbrook Asphalt, and they are the only licensed applicator of this project in South Carolina, and the sole source paperwork is in your packet. The proposed contract amount is for $143,910 and will be funded from the road paving fund. And staff requests approval to proceed with this HA5 surface sealer application project. I'll try to entertain any questions.
Council Pavement Preservation Project HA5 surface sealer comes with a recommendation from staff. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Questions?
This was within the budget, right? I mean, the 143.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Comments? Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Hopper.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council has moved to the next item, which is the pavement preservation project Reclamite Rejuvenator. Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. As you were saying, this is the Reclamite Rejuvenator project. You should have a list of the streets shown. I've broken down some are in Spartanburg County, some are in Greenville County. All the listed streets were accepted into the city for maintenance within the last couple of years. The total mileage being treated is 3.7 miles. The contractor is Pavement Technology Incorporated, and they are the only licensed applicator in South Carolina and the eastern U.S. And the sole source paperwork is also in your packet. The proposed contract is for $61,894.54, and the funding is from the paving fund. You may recall the APWA recommends between 10 and 25% of your road maintenance budget to be in preservation related, and these two projects will put us at 24%. Staff requests approval to proceed with the Rejuvenator application project, and I'll entertain any questions.
Comes with a recommendation from staff. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion.
The only hesitation, not hesitation, but I guess question, it comes up on both of these, is there's one contractor in the state. Well, and they're not even located in the state.
Yeah, they're in multiple states, actually. It's the manufacturer of the product that controls that. They require specific training and mixing of the product methodology and application procedures. They just don't allow any random contractor to put the product out because they do, you know.
Well, that's good.
So, yeah.
So it's kind of like a single-ply membrane roof that comes from a particular manufacturer. And, you know, that particular case, the manufacturer comes out and makes sure the contractor installed it properly. Does the manufacturer of the product, do they look at projects?
They would if I requested it. I mean, we've talked about that before, but it's like I said, they're project managers that are on staff that I've met with last year when they came were, you know, trained, and, I mean, they seemed to know what they were doing. They were very specific about the way things were done and all that stuff, so.
This procedure is it a milling and a mix kind of a thing, or what?
No, sir. It's just, the HA5 is sprayed, well, they're both sprayed on the surface, actually. It's a surface application.
So we're putting this on a road that's in pretty good shape.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Just want to keep it that way.
Right.
Okay.
Now, we're still paving. We still got a lot of paving, and we came to you a few months ago about the regular paving, milling and paving program. So that's underway, too. This is in addition.
Well, I just noticed that it hadn't been that long ago, these were paved, and I just want to make sure that.
Yes, sir. That's what we're doing, is keeping the good roads good.
Good.
Others? Mr. Schenkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies, we gave you the last 3 meetings off, so we kept you to 8:30 tonight just to pay you back. First reading of ordinance number 5-2023, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a certain property owned by Little Me Academy LLC located on North Highway 101 and North McElhaney Road by 100% petition, and to establish a zoning classification of OD for said property. Ms. Cotty joins us for that conversation. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you. This is an annexation request for one parcel slightly over 2 acres at the location provided, Highway 101 and North McElhaney Road. They are requesting OD Office District for intended use as a daycare. This is the current zoning map. It is adjacent to residential suburban. And as far as future land use map goes, it is suburban neighborhood. This is a current street view of the property. And then again, the request is to annex and zone to OD. As far as surrounding zoning and land uses, it is adjacent to a church. It is across the street from Lake Cunningham Fire Station, and then also adjacent to the south and west of the South Tiger River, which is a CPW asset. Staff does recommend approval, and Planning Commission will have a public hearing on April 17th. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Entertain a motion to receive.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion.
I guess the contiguity comes from the lake.
Yes, sir.
Comments?
Do you know if this is a daycare or a school?
They have proposed a daycare, so not a primary school.
This is an existing business. It's located at O'Neill Village right now, is it not?
Yeah.
I believe so. The
It
applicant's
is.
representative is here. I don't know if they plan to move or if this is an expansion. It is a franchise.
By show of hand, is the owner or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Thank you. I'm out of practice doing this. We have to get back in the swing of things here. Anything you want to add to this conversation?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you staying with us this evening. Others? Hearing none, Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you. Last item before us this evening is the first reading of ordinance number 9-2023. This is an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Greer, South Carolina, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such a code, and providing when such code and ordinance shall become effective.
Mr. Mayor, this is the first action you'll take of the updated code update project that has been ongoing now for really a number of years. Since we haven't gotten much out of Mr. Hughes tonight, I do recognize that he's in the room and can help walk us through what this specifically means. But from a general standpoint, there's a number of state laws and maybe even federal laws that may have changed that have not been reflected in our code. So this is an opportunity for that most municipalities take over at some point to bring the entire code up to current standards and to accurately reflect our code to make sure that's in line with state and federal code. I would ask Mr. Hughes to clarify further as he sees fit.
Yeah, so this has been a long project. There were a couple of ordinances that we did major revisions on, maybe more than a couple, leading up to this. One, the animal ordinance comes to mind, towing ordinance comes to mind, where you made substantive changes to the ordinance that required you to review each ordinance independently. The entire code was reviewed by city staff, myself, and then MuniCode, who we hired to do the recodification. And their job, they do these for all municipalities, is to update code sections to make sure our law, current law, squares with changes in state and federal law. So they make adjustments as needed to make sure our code is current in terms of not being preempted by any state or federal law that's changed over the last decade, which is the last time we did a recodification project. So it's been a process, but we're at this point now where they are ready on their end for us to adopt the new code. And so the last review the city did was in July of 2022. So what the ordinance is saying there regarding repealing certain things, the ordinances that we've adopted since June of 2022 that were not sent to MuniCode as part of their final review will remain the same. So those aren't affected. It's just what was on the books at that time and what was already amended by any ordinance changes that you specifically made.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Mr. Schinkel, do we have a motion and a second at this point?
We do not.
We do not. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
And a second. Floor is open for discussion. Hearing none. Mr. Schinkel.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we have no matters in executive session this evening.
Mayor Danner, if I may, for the record, the clerk's office will need a copy of the hearing packet.
We'll have that.
Thank you.
Johnny on the spot over there. As I dismissed our earlier guests, I said somebody would take them to dinner. So I would assume, since we have no executive session tonight, the counselor will take us all to dinner after we adjourn the meeting tonight. Stand adjourned.
Yeah, right.